Welcome to the explainer. Have you ever noticed how worry seems to just, grow right in that empty space between a frightening thought and your chosen response? In those moments, it almost feels like our imagination is being held hostage before we even get a chance to act in reality. Today, we're exploring a profoundly elegant framework for how to reclaim authorship of the moment. We're going to look at exactly how we can interrupt that automatic hijacking, redirect our attention, and gently guide both our mind and body back to a place of actual agency. So, why does worry demand so much of our time? It's a fascinating question, isn't it? When we're faced with uncertainty, maybe a pending decision, an ambiguous text message, or just a general shift in the weather of our lives, worry steps right in and essentially demands an unlimited contract. It tells us, hey, think about this just a little longer. Actually, scratch that. It demands we rehearse every single possible bad ending. It keeps us scanning for some way to guarantee our absolute safety. The trouble, of course, is that most human fears just don't offer the kind of absolute certainty our mind is demanding. So what happens? We end up trapped in this cycle of rumination, burning incredible amounts of energy on outcomes we literally cannot command. You can almost think of the mind like a beautiful, high-powered projector. When we're at peace, that projector illuminates our path perfectly. But anxiety has a nasty habit of sneaking into the projection room and just hijacking the film. It forces us to sit there in the dark and watch a worst-case scenario on an endless, unresolved loop. And here's the kicker. Because our brain doesn't always distinguish between a vividly imagined threat and a real one, our body actually starts reacting as if that terrible future is happening right now. Our working memory becomes entirely consumed by a movie we never even consciously chose to watch. Okay, let's dive into this. This is where we actually find our leverage. A simple countdown, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, can serve as a small doorway in that empty space between a thought and a reaction. Now, to be clear, this isn't just some frantic productivity hack to, force yourself out of bed or rush through your emails. The 5-second reset is a deliberate, graceful boundary. It interrupts the false belief that more mental rehearsal equals more control. It doesn't deny the problem, and it certainly doesn't pretend that risks are imaginary. It simply says, for the next 5 seconds, I absolutely refuse to feed this loop. When we count backward, we're making a highly conscious choice to shift our mental location. You see, worry typically lives in a space we can call the circle of concern. It spends its time circling these abstract, unresolved, and entirely uncontrollable outcomes. But mature self-leadership, that requires us to move our energy away from that storm and intentionally cross over into the circle of influence. This is the space of real agency. It's where our actions, our preparation, and our character can actually make a difference. The 5-second countdown acts as the bridge between these two spaces. It pulls us out of the abstract and anchors us firmly back into what we can actually touch and influence today. Attention needs a place to land. Just let that statement breathe for a moment. The mind is not a machine with a clean off switch. And this is exactly why telling yourself to just stop worrying pretty much never works. When we try to suppress a thought, we usually just end up amplifying it. Because the mind is constantly in motion, it desperately requires a destination. So when you count backward from 5, you are giving your wandering, anxious attention a highly specific, immediate landing pad. You're calling it back from that imagined court of future disasters right back into the small, quiet workshop of the present moment. Now, what's really interesting about this physical experience is how we frame it. When anxiety hits, it usually starts with an ambiguous body signal, right? A racing heart, maybe a tightened chest. The body is saying, hey, something important is happening. But, and this is absolutely crucial, anxiety and excitement actually wear the exact same physical clothes. They're both high arousal states. The physical symptoms are virtually identical. The defining difference is the label we so quickly slap onto that feeling. If we label an anxiety, we see a threat, and our instinct is to just collapse or avoid it entirely. But if we label it excitement, we see an opportunity, and our natural instinct is readiness and approach. Which brings us to a really powerful practice. Within those first 5 seconds, before fear even finishes its terrifying sentence, you can consciously rename your physical energy. You notice the racing heart, you take a slow breath, and you count down calmly. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And you say to yourself, I am excited. My body is preparing. Now, this is not toxic positivity, and you aren't just faking it. It's a disciplined, psychological reframing. You're taking a feeling of threat and transforming it into empowering evidence that your body is mobilizing for something that truly matters. You're essentially giving your alertness a constructive job to do. And this brilliantly illustrates our next step. Once we've renamed our physical energy, we arrive at the second crucial part of the reset, replacing that hijacked movie playing in our mind.
We must consciously choose a new, anchoring picture, a beautifully resolved outcome. Just imagine the conversation healed, the project successfully completed, the room filled with understanding, or maybe simply your own body exhaling after a really fateful effort. This anchoring picture acts as a visual compass. It completely stops us from constantly exposing our nervous system to a feared outcome, and instead it gives our working memory a visible, hopeful home.
But we do need to be careful here. Think about how people often use vision boards. A vision board, or really any hopeful imagery, is meant to be a compass, not a fantasy. It isn't magical thinking, and it certainly isn't our narcotic designed to help you just escape reality. Honestly, imagining success without being grounded in reality can actually sap your energy and reduce your overall effort. Instead, this chosen image source for your attention should point you directly back toward reality. We look at the beautiful ending not to avoid the present, but to organize our emotion and our motivation. We hold that desired state clearly in our minds so that we can navigate our current obstacles with absolute purpose.
Let's look at how beautifully this all flows together in an elegant, actionable loop. Step 1, arousal wakes the body, your heart starts beating faster. Step 2, you catch that hijacked movie and count 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Step 3, you rename that energy. I am excited, this matters. Step 4, you call up your anchoring picture, clearly seeing the beautiful resolution. And finally, step 5, you take one single controllable step. This exact script shows us how to move smoothly from a state of automatic, anxious reaction right into a state of deliberate, grounded agency.
That final step in the loop is absolutely vital, and honestly, it must be incredibly humble. The goal here isn't some dramatic, life-altering victory. The goal is simply to return to the present moment with a sense of direction. That next controllable step, it might be as small as taking a sip of water, opening up a blank document, writing a concern down in a notebook, or sending just one simple, clarifying message. By taking that single, humble action, you break the spell. You prove to your nervous system that you are not powerless, and you completely interrupt the illusion that endless worrying provides any real protection. Whenever we catch ourselves spiraling, the 5-second reset offers us a gentle, structured way back to reality. It reminds us that our concern doesn't actually need endless rehearsal to be sincere, and that fear can be present in our bodies without being obeyed. It empowers us to finally release the impossible assignment of controlling the universe and return to the entirely possible assignment of our own faithful actions. Because, as it turns out, sometimes the first victory is not changing the future, but choosing the picture that leads us into it. So the next time your heart starts to race with worry, what picture will you choose to anchor your next 5 seconds?